Hello, hello. Hi everyone. Am I audible? Guys, give me a thumbs up if I'm audible.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are.
So let me just turn on the video. Yeah, and hi everyone. So if I you guys can see me and if I'm audible. So yeah, I can see thumbs up here. All right. Would like to welcome everyone and yeah, so Fiza also joined us. So hey, hi Fiza, hi. Welcome to the Hello PM Masterclass session. That today she's going to take this session for next 2 days. So a quick intro about. So so guys, here is Fiza Azmi with us. She am I audible, guys? I can't see. Yeah. All right, Fiza. Okay, so a quick intro, right? Fiza completed her CSE computer science degree from Aligarh Muslim University, and then she went to IIM Kozhikode and completed her MBA. And amazingly, she comes from a technical background. She has worked as a software engineer with Adobe, and at now presently she is working as product manager too with Microsoft, right? And the transition itself says a lot from coming from a technical background, from a software engineering and transitioning into product management. There is a lot that we are going to learn from her in these 2 days. And yeah, so welcome again onward, and hope you guys enjoy this session. So over to you, Fiza. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Bhavish, for such a lovely introduction. Um, I'm here to take a workshop on how do we really solve for product interviews, because as myself, I have had to go through a lot of process to understand what is being asked and what is the industry-wide need for these PM roles. So I hope the session is really helpful. I will be pausing in between for questions, so hold your questions there. If it is anything urgent, you can just go ahead and raise your hand. I'll be happy to answer. I think in some cases, I might not be able to see the chat or the reaction. So if Bhavish, you're there, you can moderate it.
Yeah.
If not, I'll try to keep an eye on.
Definitely, definitely. So we'll take a pause in between, and if there's any question, we'll make sure that we answer at the end of the session. So yeah, definitely. All right.
Sure, let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. All right, so I'll start a little bit about myself. Uh, I'm sure that Bhavish has already told you about me, but few things why you should even hear from me or why you should learn from me, if anything at all. Um, as mentioned, I have started my career as a software engineer at Adobe. Now, when you start as an engineer and you think of products as with the engineering mindset, what happens is that you are focusing on the what of things. You're given a set of requirements, you implement them, and you think of what. Transitioning from that what thinking to the why and how of things is what my journey majorly is about, and I'm still learning in that process. So once I was done with my 2 years of engineering at Adobe, I decided to go for higher studies, and that's when I pursued an MBA from IIM Kozhikode. For anybody who's looking out to do an MBA, I would definitely encourage you to go ahead and go that, not just for the opportunities that you get, but otherwise as well, it's a wholesome learning experience with people from multitude of backgrounds coming in together and learning together. And at MBA, you do all of these case competitions, and I've participated in one or few there as well. So it's a whole learning process. Within my MBA, I got this opportunity to interview for the Google Business Academy. So that's next for me. In the Google Business Academy, only around 40 students were selected from all around B schools in India. And this was an entire 6-week program where they taught you more about digital marketing and how to make digital inclusive products. So this was again an enriching experience. And lastly, as you all know, I was a summer intern at Microsoft, which means that I had to go through the summer internship process, multiple prodman interviews there. And once you're done with your internship, you have to go again through another set of interviews to get a product role. So it's not just like you did an internship and you got the role. You have to go for two sets of interview rounds, right? So I've been in that process, and other than this as well, I've worked for a few startups, prod man related itself. Okay, coming to the agenda of this call, what we will be doing is I want to discuss with you before as to how we solve these interview problems, as to who a product manager really is. So I think this will be important in understanding whether you have the values. If you do not have those skills, what can you do to build those skills, and what you have to have a product mindset. Next will be the whole interview process, which is the main agenda for this call, and how to approach these product problems, the kind of problems and the basic frameworks that we would want to go through to solve these problems. And lastly, we'll have a quick practice session. So I think this is going to help us, and I encourage people to also have mocks with each other, because I think for me, what has really worked are these mocks. As I said before, we'll be taking breaks in between, so hold your questions for that. And at checkpoints, we'll be having those questions. After 1 hour, I'll take a break for around 10 minutes just to so that it doesn't get too monotonous. And yeah, then I hope to be back with the practice round. All right. So as promised, who is a product manager? So let's find out. And we'll be busting some myths here, and we'll find out some facts as to who a product manager really is. And okay, so let's go ahead. And I'd want you to be interactive in this round. Just kind of help me walk through as to who a product manager really is. Okay, so I have a list of attributes here, and some of these are true, some of these are not. So what do you think? Do you think that the product manager is the CEO of the product? You can, if it's a yes, you can go by the show of hands. And I'd want you all to answer. Okay, so I'm able to see the chart as well. All right. Some of you saying yes, some of you saying no. Let's see what the answer is. It's a no. So product managers are not the CEO of the product. Why it is said is because our job really is to help the team ship a great product and not have that kind of influence or power that the CEO has. We are not kind of directing people. We don't have the final vision, and we don't say that this is what it is, and have that kind of a strong power and say as to what the product will be, which is why you're not really the CEO of the product. You do not have that amount of influence. Do you think you require to have, so it's the next question now. Do you think, do you require to have a tech background to be a PM? Please go ahead and type in the chat. I'm able to see it. Okay, I see a few no's here from Divya, Hemant. I like Shivam's answer as well. He says it depends. Okay, it depends on the type of role. Whichever, okay, I'll answer this. Whichever role you're in, if you're a product manager, you do not really need a tech background. What you need is the acumen to build that tech knowledge. So if you are excited about building tech products and you do not have a background, you can still go ahead and apply for product roles, and you will be selected regardless of what your background is. The question about technical product management. This is different from being a product manager. Technical product managers are generally a bridge between engineering and product management. So let's say I'm a product manager and there is engineering, and there's some stuff that requires to have in-depth knowledge of the product. In that case, firms may hire a technical product manager outside of the product management role. So these two are different roles. Okay, coming to being the advocate for the customer. So do you think you need to have that customer advocacy as a PM? Yeah, this is an easy one. You do need to have customer advocacy. Next question, do we wear many hats? Do you have to do a lot of roles, or is it just one particular role that you need to go? And again, correct, of course. You have to wear many hats. You have to be the main bridge between engineering, design, data analyst, marketing, and ultimately, yes, you have to bridge that gap between all of these to ensure that you have a great product that is being shipped. Coming to does a product manager focuses on what the outcomes of the project will be and tells the team what to do exactly? Yeah, I see a few yeses, I see a few no's. Okay, this might come as a shocker to you. No, you do not focus on the outcome. There are times when there are roadmaps you have made. Your job is to make the roadmap. To carry out that roadmap is mostly the part of engineering team. So the engineering team sort of carries that vision out that you have created, and they sort of, so let's say a lot of items that you have bucketized, those items, the engineering usually picks up. You will have sprint planning, all of these things with the engineering. Of course, you have to have that communication and bridge that gap, like I said before. But they'll be kind of filling that in and carrying out the project. There are cases, I have been in such a case, wherein the engineering might not have the bandwidth to work on items that you have written. Does that mean that you have failed as a product manager? No. You were able to plan it out, and then execution bit is not your problem. So yes, collaborate and try to get it shipped and bring that vision to conception. But if it doesn't work out, you have really not failed as a product manager. Okay, I think I've said this multiple times. Yes, the product manager sets the vision for the product. Do you need to be data driven as a product manager? Yes, definitely. You have to be very data driven as a product manager. Again, different from engineering, you are focusing on what are the goals that you have to achieve in terms of the OKRs that you've set. So, but you have to be very data driven to the number of users who have onboarded, the number of users you've acquired, who are daily active users, right? All of these are really important numbers for a product. Okay, so that's a yes. And I've said it before, it needs to be collaborative, right? Okay, so I think we know now the major functions of a PM. A is research and planning, wherein you are majorly bringing down the OKRs, forming the OKRs in the vision and roadmap planning. Next is design, where you are setting out these goals, use cases, requirements, wireframing, checking out if there are any security vulnerabilities. And then there's implementation and testing, wherein you collaborate heavily with your engineering team and design team to get this done. And it is not a job that can be done alone by a product manager. So you understand how heavily you have to rely on collaboration. And lastly is the release. And in the release itself, umpteen steps involved. So let's go to the next step, which I think is of more relevance to you folks, which is the typical interview process. And where should you as a candidate really focus? So as we see here, there are generally 4 steps to any interview process, starting from application till the point you're selected. A is the resume. In the resume, you have to quantify your keywords. What I mean by quantifying is that if you say that you've done such and such task, and if you don't have numbers to justify what you've done, it does not really add up. Those kind of resumes do not really attract the sort of attention that you'd want from hirers, right? And at the same time, why keywords are important is usually with companies, I wouldn't take names of firms, but then are a few firms who sort of have this process wherein your resume is first passed through an AI bot sort of a thing, right? When it is passed through a bot and the keywords are verified, whether you really have those qualifications as well. So if let's say you've done the things that require a product manager to do those things, but somehow you worded in a way which does not really sound like the job of a product manager, then that's the layer 1 where your resume will be rejected. And why I focus on this is because the interview process will only come in, the interview round will only come in once your resume is through. So once that is done, there is of course a second layer where a human, real person kind of goes to your resume and say, yes, this is a real fit, and this might not be, and this just has the keywords you're looking for. It is not coherent. So that's the resume round. In case you'll need any help with resume, let me know if this is something that you are looking out for or need help with. We can definitely in the future look at a session for this as well. Coming to the second round, that is the case study round. Most of these firms, especially when you hire, I'm talking specifically of tech firms who are hiring for product management roles, they have a case study round where they're really checking for your product sense, right? Product sense and the kind of customer empathy that you hold. So in these sort of rounds, you are asked product sense questions, which means that you have to understand the needs of the product. And let me take an example. Because product sense questions are relatively newer to since when I had joined. This kind of a question is where you are asked generally, let's say, build an app for people who are apartment hunting, right? So build an apartment hunting app. Now, this means that you have to understand the most important components that you have to focus on while answering this question. So it could be understanding the market landscape of this. It could be understanding what kind of a business model you're going to make for building such an app. And uh, last but definitely not the least are the users. So users where generally the empathy sort of comes in, right? Whether you're able to put yourself in their shoes and you're able to think of all the sorts of customers that or stakeholders that are involved in this kind of a process. Okay, let's go to the next bit, which is product questions. This I've highlighted because this is something I'll be double clicking on. And HR round where you have to prepare your CV. Prepare your CV does not mean you have to make it again. Prepare your CV means whatever you've written in your CV, you should know what you've written. There have been cases that you threw the product question round, yet when you're asked on what you had done before, it does not really align with what you've written in your CV. So you have to really prepare it when in terms of product problems. So whatever you solved before, are you able to think of those things in terms of how you had, how a product manager would think essentially, right? Okay, so let's zoom into what product questions are. I think there are 5 or 6 standard questions that you can get. One of them that you really can't escape is the product design question, which I will be covering in tomorrow's workshop. So if you're interested, you can definitely join that. Few questions here that I'm going to cover is execution and strategy. So execution strategy would be, let's say, Twitter, right? So Twitter has now the blue ticks. So how will you plan to launch the paid blue ticks campaign, which are now on Twitter? So this could be one execution or strategy question. Second is the design question. So a question could be that how will you design a dating app which is safe for women? This is a regular design question. Estimation and metrics, I'm sure you're aware, these are usually guesstimations, and if not guesstimations, how would you really define the success of a product in terms of metrics? Behavioral questions, again, have you ever faced conflicts in your entire journey, in your previous past experience? How have you resolved them? These sort of questions are behavioral. And technical questions, not everyone gets them, but if they really want to take you for a position which is technical, that's when they ask you questions. Again, this is not really related to your tech experience or your tech knowledge. This is related to how would you, do you have that acumen for it or not? So a question could be like, how will you price a cloud pricing strategy for, let's say, Zomato? So now why this question is interesting, you have to think again, you have to go back to see whether you have the product sense for it. So when you say cloud pricing for Zomato, it does not make sense instantly. You ask questions to the interviewer, and you might understand there are a couple of stakeholders when you talk of Zomato. There is you who is ordering from the app. There are partners who are restaurants, and then there are folks, and there are delivery guys, and there are folks who are handling all of this from Zomato's, customer care. So there are 4 kind of stakeholders here, and how you think for each of them in terms of pricing the cloud strategy. So this is not exactly a technical question, but if you do have some knowledge as to how the cloud infrastructure works, what cache is, it sort of helps. Again, not a mandatory question. It happens with people who generally have a tech background. Okay, so I'll pause here for any questions. In case you do, please put them in the chat. I'll just wait for a couple of minutes, and otherwise I'll move on for the next question, the next segment, which is on what our product manager is really looking for. Okay, I see a question on RCA. Root cause analysis questions are mostly strategy or execution questions. So a question like that would mean, let's say Uber is seeing a downfall in the number of cars being booked in a particular area. So why do you think that is, right? So that comes mostly under strategy and how will you really improve this? Example of behavioral questions. Okay, so a few behavioral questions could be like I mentioned, if you have any conflicts at work, if you had it at the previous organization, why did you have it? How did you resolve it? How do you work under pressure? What are your greatest strengths and weaknesses? All of these are behavioral questions. So anything that is related to your behavior at work, those are the questions you can expect. And they are usually asked during your product interview question, but sometimes also before and after. So it could be in the case study round where they're sort of judging by what you've written. And definitely in the HR round is something you can definitely expect. Okay, I see a question based on, does the case study round differ from product interview? No, it does not just differ in terms of the product sense question, other types of questions, because product sense questions are, if you really think of it, are live product design questions. What case study round is generally is if, let's say, a firm has shortlisted few candidates together. So they're going to get you on a Teams call. They're going to give you a problem. You can ask them clarifying questions on Teams. And all of you will be, this is if not virtually. So I've only been in virtual rounds, but what I've heard is now that it's turning into physical rounds as well, you're made to sit in a room in a group of, in like a round table chair sort of a format, and you're allowed to present your answers one by one on the basis of who has submitted their answer first. Submitting the answer requires you to write them down. You can choose to write them down on a piece of paper. This also requires you to actually draw the wireframe, which you will most likely miss in the product interview round. So there is usually you and the interviewer sitting right in front of you, and that kind of thing goes missing. But here you might have to draw in the case study round. I'm saying you might have to draw a few wireframes and then send it over in the form of a PDF or wherever you're drawing it, right? So, all right. So whoever sends the answer first, it goes in a roundtable format, and you're supposed to say our answers out loud. Now, I don't know if it's an advantage or a disadvantage. Whoever goes first might repeat your ideas. But the best part of it is that you're not being judged on the basis of your ideas, but rather the approach of how you got in the question. So both of you might say that, okay, A is the correct solution for it, but how did you reach to A is what matters. So I hope that answers the question. They are sort of different. The problem statement will be different. The kind of competition, this is more of an elimination round, and not everybody has to go through this round. All right, I'll be moving on to the next segment since I don't hear the question. Okay, so what is the product interviewer really looking for? This is not just true for in my case. This is a standard process that I have seen through a lot of firms that I have interviewed for. Right. So the first thing that people are really looking for when they're looking for a product manager is empathy. Like I've mentioned before, what empathy means here is how empathetic, how much can you think about the customer? So do you have a strong empathy towards the customer? You really need a great attitude, uh, strong communication skills, and you should be really good at collaborating to understand. And of course, you'll have to speak to a lot of customers to understand their needs. Are you able to do that? So that's one. Second is what I like to call the spidey sense. I'm sure you must have heard of this before as well, but a spidey sense is product intuition. So are you able to, do you have that intuition about a product? Whether do you have that gut feeling about thoughts? Of course, you have to have a structure around what you're thinking, but yet again, you have to have some market sense of the product that you're thinking, some intuition, some skills that you've built. And again, this doesn't just come naturally, it only comes over time once you have been in a few internships, so you have at least practiced it in your own thinking. So this sort of helps. Then lastly is passion. It's really not lastly, but Are you really passionate for building stories for your products, for building a great customer experience for your customers? Are you really passionate for technology if you're building products in tech? Um, Also, a little bit about a few principles regarding design, right? So, do you really have a structured answer when you're kind of going through things, right? So, all of this together, so the structured answer bit is more into the spidey sense bit. That are you just going and rambling answers? Are you really thinking through what you're saying or what you are thinking of envisioning a product? So, for us, these three things are very important. All right. Coming to the major part of what we are here for, the approach to solving a product management case. Now, there are a few things that I would want to keep in mind for everyone. Um, Starting with that we are not the users, we are not the customers. So, in a lot of mock interviews that I've taken for folks, what generally happens, it happens with me all the time as well. When you answer questions related to product, you kind of use terms like that, hey, this would be one of my needs if I were building a product like that. And I would have thought of this product like this, or these would have been my needs if I were the user. But the problem there is that you're not the user. So as a product manager, you'll have to really be very cognizant of that fact. The interviewer, mind you, is actually focusing on these things because this is a very important aspect. At Microsoft, I work for creating products for developers. I have been a developer myself, right? Like few years ago, I was into the software industry building products, but not from this angle, from the engineering aspect. And I tend to think that if I were a developer, I'd be doing it like this, right? These were my needs. But it's not because I'm no longer a developer and I'm not using the product. And it's very different. So definitely speak to the customer. But this comes once you're a product manager. Once you're interviewing, in that interview process, always remember that you are not the user. So when you're stating your answers, be cognizant of the fact, of course, everything that you say will come from your own knowledge. Yet, don't start focusing on one particular user and be like, okay, my father was like this, so he's an elderly person, his needs are like this. Of course, it would be, but I would just prefer not mentioning it and coming from I mean, not your personal experience, right? Okay. Always remember to be inclusive. So good product managers are able to think of a varied number of customers, and they do not really build for just one particular one particular persona. Again, I'm sure you must have come across this example if you've read a lot of books regarding product management, wherein they say that let's say you have to build a product. The problem here is build a pen. The product is a pen here. Um, so you'll say I want to build a pen for a student. Student will use a pen, right? But at the same time, you have to think of personas like the parent. So, what if the parent has to teach the student how to write? What if it's a pen for an astronaut? An astronaut is to use the pen in space. What if it's a particular kind of a pen that is going to be used for designers in calligraphy? What if it's for architects? You have to think of a lot of use cases. And in that, remember not to forget people who are of disability. So you have to be inclusive of that fact as well. A lot of users, right? So elderly, disabled. You'll get a lot of questions like build an alarm clock for the blind. If you're not able to put yourself in the shoes, uh, you will still have to somewhat have that sense to be very inclusive in the nature of the product that you're building. All right, and the next thing is very important. It is to pause. Uh, More often than not, we tend to forget to take a pause before we answer a question. Now, there are lots of ways to do this, but if you're worried that this can turn into an awkward situation where somebody asks you a question and you're like, okay, thinking, answering, it can be, but fill in those gaps, communicate. So this is also a key skill, right? I told you about for a product manager. You're supposed to communicate that you're going to take a pause. This is a problem. You heard it. And you say, okay, I'll need 2 minutes to think about it. Once you take those 2 minutes, think in that process, right? This is going to give you time to not rush into solutions, exactly what the interviewer is looking for. So they don't want to there is no correct answer, right? There are lots of answers, but there's no correct answer and only the approach that is tested. So you need that time to get to that approach. before you just ramble into a solution that, okay, this is how I'll build a pen. No, think of a lot of users, think of a lot of use cases, discuss it with your interviewer, and then provide a really structured answer. And taking a pause is going to give you some time to articulate what you're going to say quite well. So great practice. Definitely do this. Don't forget it. All right. And drive, don't ride. By driving, I mean you sort of have to take charge of the interview. So you're given a problem, ask your clarifying questions. Uh, but what I mean by don't ride is you cannot just say that, okay, how would you have built this product? So, okay, you can ask what is the goal of the product, but you can't say that this is what I'm thinking. Do you think this is correct? Do you think this is correct? There are few interviews that I've taken wherein folks have sort of directly been asking me for questions that this is the persona that I'm going to do. And do you think this is right? I don't have an answer to that. You justify why you say that. And you have to really help walk me through that process as to why you're saying what you're saying and justify it, ask me clarifying questions, um, and don't worry for it to get any awkward, but you have to really frame your questions in a way so that you're not looking for answers from me, because I'll not be giving answers. I will just be directing the interview. I'll give it direction. So try to drive it yourself. Again, a very small note that I've written there is to be careful of the choice of words. One of the case studies that I was once evaluating, were very mindful of the practice of being inclusive. But while being inclusive, they wanted to work for people of disability, those who could not speak. The product, the name the product as Voice for Voiceless. And that was one of the major reasons why it was sort of not considered in the future stages, because the choice of words was so wrong, even if they were trying to be very inclusive. So sometimes these need to be corrective from ourselves. And if you want to build products that people will love and they will run really successful businesses, being diverse and inclusive is absolutely vital. Oops, sorry. Rushed it into it. Sorry, all right. Coming to the next segment, does one framework fit all? This is something I've struggled with myself in the very beginning of my journey as a student trying to jump into product management. I was sort of put into a set wherein, you're given the circles framework. If you've heard of it, the circles framework is the standard framework that you hear of, and it's a really good framework to solve questions. But is it something that is going to fit all of the product problems? The answer is no. The circle method, if some of you are not familiar with it, it is to understand the situation that you're in, recognize the customers that you're going to be solving the problem for, what are the use cases, needs, what are the then once you have that listed, you have to cut to prioritization. Generally means just prioritizing all of the options that you have, the needs that you have, the users that you have, which one will you be solving for, listing all of the solutions that you've thought for that particular user, that particular use case. And then once you have that out, you're just going to tie it back to the goal that you were solving this problem for. So evaluating trade-off means you're just removing that, okay, this is not a problem worth solving for, and this is something that I want to focus as my MVP. That is the most viable product. And lastly, you're going to summarize that this is what I had recommended, why I'd said it, and why this is tying to the goal that you suggested. So this is generally the process that you can follow during the interview process. But what most of us do, once we know a framework, we tend to decide that framework. And interviewers are very aware of that. To be a very successful product manager, you have to really deeply understand what is the biggest impact that you're going to bring on the success of that product. So for me, I do try to follow this circles method. In fact, I'll help you solve a problem with the circles method itself. But for me, what I generally try to do is that I sort of set context first. That is asking clarifying questions, asking what the objective of this is, and what is the goal of the product. So these questions will help me set context. Then go from broad to narrow. So broad to narrow means these are just sounding very complex things. It's just a simpler version of the circles method. Broad to narrow generally means you list all the users out of all the users, once you're discussing with your interviewer, you're going to choose a couple of personas. For them, you're going to narrow down to use cases. Again, from those use cases, in discussion, clarifying questions with your interviewer, you're going to choose a couple of use cases, and then you're going to list a solution for that use case. So from you started with an umbrella of personas, then you narrow it down to one use case that you really want to solve this product for that ties to the original goal of the product. Um, then, of course, once you have a few solutions, first you'll have at least three. It's good to have 3 or 4 solutions. Once you have them, you're going to prioritize. There are lots of methods of prioritizing as well. We'll go through that too, right? Now, the second method here is learn and iterate. This is again very similar. So circle method kind of fits for the design problem. Like I said, it just helps you not forget through any of the, I mean, just like a memory trigger that helps you from forgetting any of the steps that there are. What the learn and iterate method is that you have a hypothesis. A hypothesis is something that's going to capture that, okay, this is a problem worth solving for. Like, let's say you are given a problem statement, you say, okay, out of this, this is something that I want to solve for. And you discuss it with the interviewer, of course. Then you go to listing the customers, what their needs are. Again, anyone that you want to serve with this tool or the process that you're building. Then experiments are things that you will be crafting with the help of engineer. That's something that you're thinking, right? That is going to validate your hypothesis. So these are just verbal terms you're saying in the interview, just helping you narrow down what you have been thinking. And learnings are again what you uh, basically summarizing and evaluating trade-offs is now here called learning. So this is another method. These are again frameworks to help you not skip anything while you're walking through a framework. One of when you come to strategy frameworks, right, one of my favorite principles for solving is the 5 whys. So this comes from Nord Orman's book called, I think it's called Design Thinking. It's a book on design thinking. So the 5 whys generally say, so there's an example here, I'll run you through it, is that the problem that says is that a person ran through a red light. So the first question you ask is why? So we only ran through the red light because they were late for work. So then why were you late for work? So because you woke up late. Then why is that you woke up late? The alarm clock broke. So that's why I woke up late. And then why did that break? So you said that you did not really check if it was working the previous night. And then why didn't you check it? You said you simply forgot. So now after this asking why is of no use, but you kind of, this is just a backward method of thinking, challenging the status quo. So wherein you can just reverse the situation and it helps you uncover new possibilities for a product. So you can do a similar exercise for, let's say, a plane did not land properly. So go back to why, and these are generally 5 whys that you have to ask. This can also, as an exercise, you can try this for the Uber question that I said earlier, that in one particular area, Uber is not able to have enough customers as it did earlier. So why could that be? All right. But forgetting any of these frameworks, again, remembering that these are just aids for you to not skip any of these important steps. Don't forget that you are entitled to ask the interviewer as many questions as you want. Again, how you frame those questions are very important. Out of all the questions that you see here, the 5 Ys and 1 H, or the 5 Ws and 1 H, we as product managers majorly have to focus on what is it, who's it for, why do they need it, and how does it work, right? So when is it available, where is it available, comes in later, at a later stage. But this is something that you can remember for now. So ask these questions. This is something you're really solving for in a product interview. Okay. Coming to the second part of the circle training. So comprehending the situation is something that I kind of walked you through. But coming to the second part of the circle training, which asks you to identify the persona. Now, why I'm doing this exercise with you is because this has sort of made it easier for me in the interview process. Sometimes it's very difficult to think of personas, to think as to what we are really solving for. But once, let's say, you've listed an umbrella of personas in an interview and your interviewer is sort of agreeing that, okay, we are going to build for, let's say, this particular persona, then now you only have a couple of minutes to think as to what you're going to solve for, how you're going to solve for, right? And this identifying that customer does not mean just list all of them. You have to really dig deep as to what you're solving for. So now you really need some critical data about these users. So as to tying it back as to what you were solving for and how do these people relate to that problem. What I generally do for persona interviews, this is a good exercise. I draw this 2 by 2 matrix, and I've done this, taken a pause, drawn that matrix just for my own understanding. I'm just going to give you an example. Let's say Kate is a persona. She is a traveling reader. So what I need to know about this persona so that it helps me find out what use cases or pain points she could be facing. So the first thing is demographic. So what is the age or what is the marital status? Where does she stay? How much does she earn? Which income bracket does she lie in? Do I want to build a product that targets low income people, medium income, or high income? So this sort of the age group as well helps me identify. Okay, coming to next is the behavior of this persona. What does she really like to do? So here it says wants to go on vacation with books and then travel so many times in a year and carry so many books. So maybe if I'm building an e-reader, let's say like Amazon Kindle, a competitor for that, then I'd want to know a few things about that user and what really is a pain point. So of course, carrying so many books on a trip is going to be heavy. So probably she's looking for a device that needs to be lighter. And this is going to help me while thinking through this process. And of course, needs and goals. So what does she really like to do, right? Her need is that she wants to be discovering new books while she goes through this process. And she wants to discuss books with others, which means my Kindle competitor should also have a communication bit because she likes to do that, right? And she also likes to write a book one day. So that means that she might be making notes. She might be she might need a nudge or a starting point from the community. So just thinking a few things and as to what this persona is, digging in deeper, this matrix has sort of helped. So that is why I'm just sharing it with you folks. Use this the persona or this 2 by 2 matrix is just a surrogate for the customers that we are building it for, right? So for many users, this could be extended to many users, mapping again back to the clear target that we have. Okay, so we are done through the first 2 steps, that is comprehending the situation, identifying the persona, coming to the last few methods of circle. Again, not something that you really have to stick to. This is just usually for design problems, but I'm just trying to say that this is one of the frameworks you can use apart from the others that I mentioned and how you can just think, narrow down to that problem, right? Okay, I think I've spoken too much. Do you have any questions? I'll just pause for a bit there. Yes, Nicola, I'm so sorry, I forgot. It was called Design of Everyday Things. Some of my favorite books to read. If you do have time, you should go ahead and read it once. There is a question which says that, do we get to ask clarifying questions during the case study round? Yes, we do. 2 ways to do it. So you're on a team call. If it's virtual for you, I'm not sure how it's going to be. If it's virtual, you're on a Teams call, you can write the message directly on the group. Now everybody gets to see and it directs them to an answer. The other way is to directly message the um, moderator if you know who that is. So that helps. That is what I have done. I've directly messaged the moderator instead of asking, unmuting myself and asking out loud so that everybody kind of figures what I am also thinking. So that doesn't help. They'll have to be a little on your feet. Okay.
Also, Fiza,
Yes,
I have a
sorry.
question.
Yes.
You spoke about a 2 by 2 matrix for building that customer persona, right? So do we have that much amount of time during an interview? Because taking so much amount of time and building a 2 by 2 matrix during an interview will take a lot of time, right? So interviewers will allow for that, or how should we go about it? What is the ideal time?
Right. So there's no fixed time as to that, okay, I'm only going to allow half an hour to Rishi to solve these problems. Um, you so I have taken up to 1 hour to solve product problems. And if it's engaging enough, the interview will rather encourage you. Why I drew the 2 by 2 matrix while solving problems is because instead of just going directionless, there will be times that you'll not know answers to questions. So you'll just be like, okay, what is next? What is next? I don't know. Like build Instagram story for elderly people. And then you're thinking, how do I improve Instagram stories? And they're saying there are no changes so far in the stories. And you're just sitting and thinking so hard. Instead, this will really help you in digging deep. So these are majorly for problems where you are stuck like that. If you have an answer, if your thought process is flowing through and through, then I don't think you really necessarily need it, but I still think it helps. It has helped me, and I use this in, like, I'm not just saying it for the sake of it. I've used it there. And how long will it take for you? Like, while you're thinking, just keep on jotting it down. So I'm going to take 2 minutes. So maybe you're feeling like it's a whole matrix I have to draw, but once you're in an interview process, just take a break, try to do it. During a mock. You'll probably see it doesn't take that long, and it just helps your thoughts flow better. Okay, I hope
Understood.
that answers the question.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Jatin, I see your hand up. Would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, it's based on the same question, continuing the same 2x2 matrix. So you created a 2x2 matrix just because to understand the user persona, and so you can divide their needs. Like one would be the behavior, one would be needs and goals. That's the main reason, so you can understand the user persona, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Mostly focusing on the pain points. So rest of it, demography or all of this is still okay. Helps me segment. Maybe there's a user that I didn't think of. So when I write income, then like I told you, I think of, okay, low income, high income, right? Age, I'd be like, okay, I forgot the elderly. And travel a lot, I might just think into people who need wheelchairs to travel. So that just helps. I mean, at least that is how it is for me. Once you're through with these mocks, is when maybe it helps a lot more.
Basically, it's a user persona template in a form of 2x2 matrix. Okay.
Yes, just so that you're able to think of other users as well.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anirudh, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hi. Now that like you mentioned, not to really focus on any one type of persona, right? So, are we expected to have a couple of personas, not only the example which you showed us earlier, generally in an interview?
This was the second step that I took. The first step was listing all the personas that I can think of, right? Like I took the example of the pen. There is a student, there is a parent, there's a teacher, there's an astronaut, there's an artist, all sorts of, maybe for medical use. It could be a lot of personas that you list once for and all. After a discussion with your interviewer, you'll probably have a couple of personas. So maybe they just say, stick, I understand that you were able to expose so many people, but stick to the student and maybe the teacher and the parent. That's it. So student is your primary persona, your secondary persona is your teacher and your parent.
Makes
So
sense. Yeah.
then I'm going to make the matrix for a student, just thinking of maybe, am I missing out anything? So students could be, okay, are we talking about class 12 students, college students? So, even when you dig down, then you don't want to really miss out any use cases. So it just has helped me in that process.
Okay, so it's an input to narrow down the process, right?
Yes. And in case you've missed something earlier, so that
makes sense.
All right. Okay, so I'll be moving forward. Is there any other question?
Yeah, one more question. So Jatin here.
Yes, okay.
Do you also give reason why you choose that persona to the?
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely tied to the objective that the product you're building for is, right? So while in the first question, you might have asked a few clarifying questions with your interviewer and they'll direct you to it, right? So this persona is not something I randomly chose. It is through a series of questions that I had put to my interviewer and they directed me to saying that, okay, this is the persona that we want to cater for. So it's usually that. Again, good practice not to say, hey, I'm going to go for students. Don't do that. That is a big no. And don't be like, okay, do you think I should go for this or do you think I should go for this? No, have your justified reasons behind why you're choosing what you're choosing. So you can think of it like that. Your questions are going to direct you to that persona.
Okay. And if you can down the line explain the learn and iterate method with an example, that would be great because I have some questions on it. Like
sure.
That too.
Okay, sure. So if time permits, I'll walk through it as well. All right. Coming to the next bit of circle. So we've done the first two. This is identifying. This is reporting customer needs. So again, I just like to call it like I want to define use cases. Like I told you, this is the framework to help you remember, but I sort of always remember that, okay, now I've listed the users. I want to know what the use cases or pain points are. This is something that I kind of follow, that as a role, I want this kind of a goal and this is how it's going to benefit me. So let's say if it is, I have to think of an example. As a student, I wanted to perform better. So the goal was to perform better here, and the benefit that I'm going to get of the product. So this will only make sense when I have a problem to solve, but kind of helps you understand as to what you're solving for. So the benefit that you're going to get out of the product, and the goal was, let's say, goal was to get more marks, right? By writing more could be a benefit, or the benefit that you're getting out of it, right? So this I'll walk you through once again once you're solving the problem. Right now it's just sounding vague. All right, coming to the next part of this, that is prioritizing. See here is cut through prioritization. Okay, again, like I've mentioned, pause and ask questions. If you need to, do not think what the interviewer will be thinking. One step that I missed during defining the use case is that what I generally do is I kind of make the user journey. So let's say if it's an app or a digital product like that, right? What is the process going to be once I log in, once I purchase something, once I discover something, why do I click on it? How do I purchase that first thing, and how do I move on? And it's easier said than done. Like maybe you might skip a few steps, but how do you really practice this? So my approach to it, while I was learning how to do it, and apart from mocks, I download a few of my favorite apps from the Google Play Store or the App Store, and I'll see how that user journey is. So one of the apps that I've done this for was Duolingo, and I think you all should do it. It's got a little gamification bit. I've not seen it for quite some time now, but when I used to do it, just go through why it's such a popular app, right? It's going to give you some kind of a user experience that users are really pining for. What is it that it is doing right? Make your notes, walk through that user journey. It kind of helps you think of other use cases as well that you might be missing when you're generally thinking of, let's say, a translation app or a language learning app in this case. Okay, sorry, coming back to prioritization. Once you're a product manager, you're going to use a lot of prioritization frameworks like the RICE framework, Kano model, opportunity framework, cost benefit framework, what is it called? Value and effort framework. All of these frameworks you're going to keep on using through and through. But what is it that you should really use in a product interview? You don't have time for this. You're not talking to real customers. You don't know what it is, right? So I think for prioritizing in an interview, this is why I've written here, you need to ask questions. What is important in terms of the business goal? A mini thing to do what you can do. I'm not, only if time permits and the interviewer is enthusiastic enough, you can just draw a quick matrix on benefit and cost, right? So a value and effort is a better way to do it. That this is the value this solution will bring, and this is the effort that you estimate that the engineering or effort to build that product will take, right? So something you can do. I usually don't do it. I kind of try to get it from the users, from the interviewers' answers. So I ask them questions so that I can prioritize my solution based on whatever objective or goal we are tying it to. Okay. Coming to trade-offs, this is the value. Okay, why I've not written list solutions? Because this keeps on happening throughout the process of writing use cases, prioritizing. So you've already kind of list in this process listing solutions. Coming to trade-off, what you have to think of, what the product that you've thought of, solution that you've thought of. So you might have 3-4 solutions. Which one is it to go for? You will list that, okay, what works and what does not work. So few things that you can think of while doing this is, will this really satisfy my customer needs? Will this really help in implementation? Will this kind of help in the growth of the product, generate revenue? Few of these things that you can think while trading off. Or if there is a solution, what are the drawbacks of it once you're building it? Is it breaking anything that exists? So a few things that you can think there. Okay. And lastly, the S goes for summarizing. It is summarized, but I would definitely suggest going for stating improvements that you could have thought in your solution. It just shows that you're not a rigid mentality and you kind of are really still thinking on what you've built is not the perfect product, and there are iterations that are required for it. That shows your implementation and testing kind of acumen. So yeah. All right. So if you folks have any questions, we can you can put them here in the chat or ask me to raise your hands. Otherwise, we can just put on our thinking hats, or rather a PM hats, and solve for the next question that we were planning to do. Okay, I see a hand up. Zen, please ask your question.
Yeah, hi Fiza. So my question is, I was going through a product sense question on a YouTube channel. So the interview actually came up with a non software or a non app kind of a product in response to the, I mean, as part of the process. So does I mean, can we kind of also fit a non software or a non app kind of a product in these kind of questions?
That's a great question. Actually, I've done it also. One of the standard questions that you get in PM interviews is, what is your favorite product, right? So in your favorite product, the first clarifying question you should ask is, are you thinking of a technical product? Are you thinking of an app? Or are you thinking of a physical product? Could it be like a mouse that I think sucks big time or is so good that I must mention it? So one of my interviewers went and said, okay, go for a physical product. So then that's how I started thinking of the product as a physical product. So try to first kind of accumulate through your clarifying questions what the interviewer is really looking for. You can always say, think of products that are physical products. One of the questions that I don't want to say I was asked, but one of the questions that you can think of is, so design a COVID vaccination center. This is the question, right? And the first question is, do you want me to build an app to help you vaccinate people better? Or do you want it to be a physical, do you want it to be like people actually entering into let's say a box to get vaccinated? So you have to ask these questions, and where it will go depends on the answer that the interviewer is giving. Tanuj, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hi Fiza. So my question is, how does this circles method fit into a B2B product? So, like the general examples we have walked through in the past session were more or less related to B2C kind of.
Okay. Can you give me an example of a B2B product that you're thinking of?
So for instance, you can think Microsoft, like I was thinking about my company because I work in a B2B space. So in my company we have this product which is basically used for loan originations across North America. So what I have been thinking is, if we are trying to expand into US market and we have a very good solid product in Canadian market, what happens when we are trying to prioritize things, whether we prioritize based on revenue, and are those the questions which we have to ask to the interviewer to set the approach we are going to take?
Okay, so that's a lovely question. I have been again in this situation where I've worked for a B2B concept. It was not really actuated because I was working as an intern. So this product is, you can think, I can't really reveal what the product was. The product, you can think of it as a device. So this device is mostly used by, let's say, Toyota for designing their cars, right? So what me as a firm, let's say firm A, I'm in firm A is selling to other businesses to build this, right? Now the problem goes is to how do you really connect to these folks? It kind of becomes difficult. And can you think of yourself, okay, I'm going to use a device like this, so should I just go ahead and do it? But no, you have to somehow at the end get inputs from the customer before you try building anything from it. Coming to priority, that priority is going to come from your leadership. So the leadership is going to tell you at this point in time, what matters to me is, let's say, NSAT. NSAT is a goal that you're thinking of, right? So NSAT today is 100. We wanted, okay, 50. We want it to be 100. So that is one goal. That is something you're going to think through while prioritizing. What are you looking for? Is it importance to the customer? Is it how important the feature is? Or is it how satisfied the customer is? So this kind of what the business that you're solving for is going to come from leadership. If you are the leader yourself, let's say you're in the startup, you have to think of what you really want to solve for. Do you want more users to use your product? Or anyway, there will always be a user, even if it is another business. So those are also people who are working to build up, who are going to use your product. So, in my opinion, since I have applied circles before, sort of fits in. I'm not 100% able to understand the challenge you might have faced, or maybe it was just answering what the actual goal and objective was to solving the problem. So if you know the objective, that okay, today I want to improve the revenue by 2x. So this is my objective. Now it does not matter whether your customer is like a regular direct D2C customer or what kind of a customer it is. Do you relate to it, Tanuj, or do you have any follow-up questions?
No, that makes sense. I'll try to think it through, and then if I have some follow-up question, I'll reach out.
Sure, definitely. All right, I see Vinay's hand up.
Yeah, Fiza, can you please repeat the question about the COVID vaccination, designing the COVID vaccination center? I completely lost
It
that.
said, yeah, the question was just this: design a COVID vaccination center. Now, this was in context of whether you want to build a technical product or a physical product, like a non-tech product. The technical product here is an app. So you might want a lot of people to come and register and get themselves vaccinated, as all of us did, right? We also kind of registered ourselves on an app and then reached a center where we kind of scanned it, and that would be a tech product. Now, a non-tech product is how would you manage it without that app? So it could be just manage the incoming traffic to a COVID center. How are you going to manage the two lines there? How are you going to figure out who's going to get served first on the basis of incoming people? So are you going to design it? How are you going to design the queues? How are you going to design the working systems there? Systems as in whoever is registering people, how are you going to design that entire thing? This is the way of thinking of a physical product. So depends on what really your interviewer is looking for. I hope that is clear now.
Yeah, it's clear.
All right. Satya.
Yeah, hi Fiza.
Hey.
Since you brought in this prioritization, so I just want to ask a question on that. It's like how deep we have to go on that for a prioritization. Like we have to show up, so we know these frameworks to be used, and I'm going on with this framework and creating this prioritization. Like that, we should answer, or how it is.
Okay. Again, something that you usually face in PM interviews is this confusion as to how much depth should I go in? What is the patience of my interviewer? What should I really do there? I would, in my experience, I would not suggest going into really deep analysis of all these frameworks, going like, okay, I'm going to do so much reach, so much confidence, so much effort. This is the impact, and then building on that whole matrix and evaluating. Nobody has the time for or the patience for it, because you are just only working them through your verbal conversation, right? So I'm not even able to imagine as an interviewer what you're drawing. So forget that. Just try to ask through questions. Minimum that you can do is just maybe the easiest matrix that I find is value and effort. So benefit and cost. These are the two usually that if I feel that the interviewer is encouraging me to prioritize, I generally state that, okay, this is how I would have done in real life, but we're not really connecting. I haven't really spoken to any real customers, neither the engineering teams. I don't know the t-shirt sizing of this product. But in my understanding through our conversation, this is what I think should be prioritized based on the goal that we're solving for. So this is generally how I do it. And then if they ask you to dig deeper, that's when you go and dig deeper. I wouldn't just ask you to, okay, hold your interviewer on the call and be like, okay, I'm drawing the matrix and give me some time. That is, I think interviewers just lose patience. They're very patient with you throughout the process, and prioritization kind of comes towards the end of the call, right? So something you have to be mindful of. Just judge the room, read the room. What are they really looking for, and answer accordingly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Right, I'll just go to the chat once. Okay, I think I sort of answered these questions. If you have any other questions that, okay, there's one. Yes, of course. There's a question from Zen which says accuracy or correctness of the matrix that you formed regarding value and effort. So anything that you do, you have to get it sort of verified by your interviewer, whether you're on the same track with what they are thinking. So once you have that matrix, you say that this is what I'm thinking. You don't have to be like, can you verify it for me? You just have to be like, this is what I'm thinking in terms of value. This is what I'm thinking in terms of effort. If they do not agree to it, they will definitely speak right there. It has happened before where they're like, no, I don't think it's going to take that kind of effort. So you have to reevaluate. So that's when you simply reevaluate. So it's more of an organic process. Interviewers are also people. They will really try to help you, guide you through that process. And I go by this because I have interviewed for both big tech firms and also startups. So a lot of startups I've interviewed for the product management role for the sake of practicing. You can say in terms of mocks as well. But my observation has only been the interviewer really guides you through that process. Okay. All right. Since there are no questions, would you like to take a 5 to 10 minute break now and we'll come back? How does that sound? Please give me a show of hands. If not, we'll continue with the product problem.
I guess it sounds good. People are showing thumbs up in the chat.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. So right now it's 9:10. We'll be back by 9:20 if that works.
Yep.
Okay, great. Awesome. All right, we are back. I hope everyone's back as well. Okay, so because now we'll be diving into solving a product problem ourselves. And okay, wait for a minute and then I'll begin. Okay, I see most of you folks are back. Okay, so the product problem that we'll be solving today is design a smart shoe. Now, okay, I'm sure some of you might have solved this before, but forget that. Forget everything that you've done before and start from scratch, right? So on the principles that we've learned today, frameworks that we've heard of today, try to walk through it since this is a simple design problem, right? So you might have a few clarifying questions. Take 5 minutes to think, post which we can jump into questions that you might have asked or have for the problem. Okay, so what I'll be doing as an exercise here is I will be switching to FigJam. FigJam is a tool where you can actually collaborate with people, but what I'll really be doing is using it as a whiteboard and I'll be mapping down your thoughts there. Let me know that works because I think that'll help us see where we began, how we're ending. I have sort of tried to solve this problem myself as well. And I'll be sticking to answering those questions with that objective, right? So I have solved this. So I have a few answers to a few things. We'll definitely not reach that answer since it's a collaborating effort, collaborative effort, but there are no correct answers. But all those questions that you will be asking, I will have fixed answers to that. So I hope that works.
Yes, it works, Fiza. Thank you.
Okay. Sure. So I'll just move on to FigJam bit of things. Hope you've thought of the problem. So if you have any clarifying questions, now is the time to ask.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is a smart shoe is for a human being or any pet or animal?
Okay, so this is for a human being. Okay, so while you're seeing all of this, I'll just keep on jotting it down as well. Give me 1 second so that we don't forget. So this is what FigJam looks like if none of you used it before. So first is comprehending the question. So first question was human or animal. Answer was human.
Is it specifically for a particular type of people, like based on the profession?
It's up to you to decide. Please write these questions in the chat itself, right? So it'll be easier for me to copy paste as well. So one of the questions that Tanuj has asked, so this is just an exercise, right? I will kind of be correcting the kind of questions you'll be asking so that we learn through this process. So Tanuj has asked me in a direct message, which is a good way to ask, what is the target audience for this? I will not be answering this question. You have to tell me, right? I will not tell you, okay, this is the target audience I'm solving for. It's a rookie mistake. Do not ask these questions in actual product interviews. Okay, next question is, I might not be taking names. So there's the next question that says that, are we designing for health management or performance? Up to you to decide. So you can choose whether it's health management or performance. So here I said it's up to you. Right. Someone is asking daily use. Again, up to you. What is the purpose? Purpose of the shoe is something you will define as a product manager. Okay. I kind of like the kind of questions that are coming in here. Okay. Now that's a good one. Can you define a smart shoe? So break down the problem. What I like about this question is you want to know what I mean by a smart shoe. What I mean by, I would have framed this question differently. I would have just directly asked, what do you mean by smart? So by smart, I mean anything that uses technology. Right? Okay. I hope my exam was visible, right?
No, it just disappeared. Now it's visible. Yeah.
Okay.
So you said anything that uses technology, right? So
Right.
digging it deeper, what is what are we trying to measure using technology? Like, what is the outcome that
Okay.
we're expecting using technology?
Outcome is that it makes life better. The chat sort of disappeared. Okay.
So again, asking a why follow up to that question, making life better, right? So when you say making life better, what exactly are we meaning by this? So is it reducing the effort while walking to the user, uh, or is it giving that questioning effect while walking, or what exactly is it? How exactly is it making the life of a user better?
Okay. Again, this question is somewhat asking me for an answer, but I do like a question that's in the chat that says, do I have any constraints for building it? Another way to frame it, I mean, what I'm thinking of this question as is define boundaries for building this. So for that, I will say that no, it is just a shoe in itself. It needs to be smart, which means it's using technology to make life better. An extension to that question would be, do I need to attach any other gadget to make it smarter? No, I want you to keep it simple. Think of making just the shoe smarter. Okay. Is it for running or walking? Okay. Again, up to you. How would you like to make it smarter? Okay. Objective, again, I've answered that it is just to make life better. Better is something that you will define. So maybe let's say if I really have to say better, I want to say it helps performance. Someone asked me running, walking. So you can choose. Is it calculating the health parameter? Akash, try to frame the question. Folks, here, please focus, right? Try to frame a question in which you're not extracting answers from me. I will not be answering whether it's used for calculating health parameters, but it's how you will probably frame this question. Objective of the shoe company is to get more users. Again, this is like a suggestion that do we want to do it for disabled people? We haven't come to the section where we are identifying personas. We are just at the section where we are trying to see what we are building. So I think since just keeping the time as well in mind, we just have half an hour to do this. Then there'll be follow-up questions as well. What is the problem here? It says design a smart shoe. Did you think of what a shoe could be? So let me just add more here. Smart you define, but did you define what a shoe is? Can you think of different kind of shoes? I think that's for starters. What does a shoe here mean? Could it be a roller skate? Could it be for an astronaut in space? Could it be for doctor?
An athlete?
Could it be for an athlete?
Could it
Could
be
it
for a pedestrian? Pedestrian, sorry.
Okay, so yeah, for regular walkers, right? Not again, like I think I only made a mistake in saying like I started naming personas. Essentially, this should have been like, is it gumboots? Is it fashion heels? Come to personas in the next segment. Is it fashion heels? What else can we think of? Is it in astronaut space? I would rather say gravity tools. Excellent. It says flip flops are not shoes, but yeah, going to be like maybe
Professional shoes,
thing.
basically.
Right. So think of we wrote right. Somebody said athletes, right? So those are sports shoes. All right. So we have a lot of shoes here. Now, if you'd ask me what is it exactly, the professional shoes, okay, health, fashion, all of these are, yeah, fits in. So now when we're thinking of smart, we know now the objective is to build a shoe that has technology that makes life better. And out of these, if you ask me to choose one, since I am now putting my interviewer's hat, it'll be sports shoes, just to keep it simple, right? So I want to, let's say, conclusion here is that I want to go for sports shoes. So let's see, there's a way to highlight this. I can, okay, embolden it. Okay, so I hope this part is clear. How you will be asking the questions here is very important. I think what I meant to say was ask goals here. So where to put it, but what we're really asking is goals, objective. But other than that, what is it that we are building? So now you have that here, right? All of these three things in this bit. Okay, coming to the next segment, which is identify the customers. So you have sports shoes here. Who do you think is the customer? Or do you have any other clarifying questions? You can put them in the chat, but let's go to, are we targeting a specific kind of customer segment or what is it that we're doing? So who is the customer here that we're building for? A sports shoe for? Okay, I see the answer is athlete, could be a sportsman. Okay. Okay, somebody's also other than, so this is by this we are segregating as profession. There is another answer that's segregated by age. So someone saying young people. Someone said, okay. Shivam, this age bracket of 1 to 35 is a little too broad. The shoe size, you can imagine, goes from like for a 1-year-old to the biggest shoe that we have to offer. So, and requirements for, let's say, a person age 1 is to walk, but that of age 35 is very different. Okay, so you written 15. Okay, I'll start that. So young people. So here he says age, let's say 1 to 15. Again, within 1 to 15 also, it goes from newborn, toddlers, adolescent, teenagers. So, okay. Now there goes by concern, right? So this one says health conscious. Okay. Yes, so this again is too broad. We might just want to, let's say, for teens, right? Here I want to say that it's for teens. So needs essentially starts from everyday need. Or true for everyday need could be for running, right? Like, okay, I don't know which bracket to put this. This is going by needs. Here we are identifying persona. Not sure where I can put this. Okay. So when we thought of what all we want to build in terms of shoes, personas could have been astronauts, children, fashion model, all right,
Doctors.
doctors are a profession who would need sport shoes for. So you'd have to think, right? Like, what is it? This is coming from earlier, but okay. I agree. Now, yes, age, and then yes, gender could be something. So are we building it for women, or are we building it for other transgender or any other community, men? Okay. Sure. By concern could also be elderly, right? And it could also be people with this ability who want to use a sports shoe to stay fit.
And medication purpose, that can be one concern.
Right. This is also medication is actually almost, okay, not almost related. Health, sort of health conscious, but okay, medication could be okay, they were injured, right? Then if you could come online and tell me what you mean by mutually exclusive in terms of what we've written so far.
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking that profession doctors could be from a different age group,
Right.
and then we're also trying to, let's say, categorize people based on their age or their behavior, for example, health consciousness. So again, doctors could again come there. So shouldn't the personas be mutually exclusive in that respect?
Right. What we're trying to do here, I agree to that point, but that comes at a later stage. What is happening here now is we're trying to broaden the spectrum. Like I told you, broad to narrow. So the broad spectrum here is as many personas, needs, everything, needs comes next, but as many personas that we can think of in terms of what, whom can we build the sports shoe for, right? So this we will narrow down later. That we will think of, okay, this is one persona we want to build it for, but at this stage, it's okay to have overlapping personas.
Sure, sure. Okay.
Okay, so there's something like monitoring fitness. I think it'll come in with health conscious for me. And again, then this is again, your interview will help you through this. So you'll have a lot of thoughts, you'll be like so many people, this and that, right? When I was saying a pen for a student or a parent, and then I also say a pen for a blind person, they can be mutually exclusive. They can't be mutually exclusive. It is possible that a student is also blind, right? But you kind of separate the two first and then start thinking of what their needs would be and how they're clubbing together, if at all. Okay, I think this is good enough.
Concern, I think we can add training also, because if a teacher is teaching in school and if he's training someone, then getting trained is also one of the concern, right?
Okay, so I'll put it here. Trainers, right? So
Yep.
the person's trainer. Okay. So age group is one thing. I'm not listing down others, but from what you've written in the chat is what I'm trying to get. Okay. I don't think I'm just removing that newborn bit because I don't think it's required in terms of a sports shoe. Then again, putting on my interviewer's hat, I'd say that, okay, that's not something my company is focused on building for right now. Right. So I think we have enough, sorry about this. We have enough personas that we have identified here. What I'm going to go for is the person who is, let's say, a sportsman, right? Or an athlete would also be like an overlapping this. And what they want to be is they want to monitor fitness. Yeah, I think that should help. What I really liked about this is medication and injured, which is again, this might just come again with reporting customer needs because they are injured, so that is one need. But all right, I'm glad that you thought of this. Okay, so now to narrow down, we are working for making a sport shoe that has some technology to make life better for athletes and sportsmen. And majorly the concern, I didn't want to address the concern here because it technically goes to the needs bit. But since we mentioned that in the chat, we can think of monitoring fitness, right? But let's think of other things as well. What can be the needs of sports people? What can be the needs of sports people? Excuse me.
In terms of smart shoes, athlete would definitely need to track his running speed, probably, and
Okay, great. Running speed is something that they want to track.
yeah, any type of exercises.
Okay, now is when there's one gap, right? When I said that I want you all to make, the objective is to make life better, here is where you step in and define how would you make life better. Now that we have the persona, we somewhat are building on the needs of the persona, but we are still not very clear of the objective. So kind of ask those questions and get the objective cleared, right? Somebody said that you'd probably want to measure the angle or the foot pressure that is going while running. Somebody is saying monitoring calories, walking style is something, all right. Okay.
As a sports person, you also want to be on time, right? So that will make your life easier.
Injury prediction. Be on time. Okay. Be punctual. So you are building this technology. I hope you know how you will, let's say if me as an interviewer say, okay, this is interesting, how will you be punctual? And then you have to build it further. So be careful of what you're saying here as well. Okay. Sleep. Okay. I think this comes under monitoring, okay, monitoring body style. Okay. Monitoring sleep. Feet pressure distribution. So I wrote it here. The ankle and feet pressure. Anything that I've missed? Progress tracking, calorie, fatigue. Okay. Measure fatigue. I think all of this can be clubbed under measuring bodily stats, right? So sort of don't give answers that later on you'll have to club under one. So this will not be many solutions. There will only be one solution, that is measuring and improving bodily stats. Measure fatigue. Okay, I like this. Learning curve. So that's essentially again improvement, right? Looking for photos. Google Maps. Okay. Okay. Before we jump on to all sorts of answers, yes, not. Let's define. This is an opportunity for you to take and define life better. Right? How is life better? Oops, I made a spelling error. So once you tell me, I'm going to put it here first so that we are clear as to what it is. Or someone. What does life better mean? Oh God. Yes. Take the liberty to suggest something here. Okay. Again, I see an answer on free headphones, it's not shoes, multiple options, and voice technology. These are not directed. We're not, you have jumped to the solution. We don't want the solution yet. We're just walking through the approach. So think of the approach, and then we're going to come to the solution. Okay. So one of the options is improving health. I agree, but I'd like to think of more options for athletes, sports person. I think a smart shoe can do more than improving health. Cool inside. Okay. This again is your help me answer life better.
It would be a quick question. It would be helpful for anybody who is tracking the athletes, like a board, like type of athlete. So management can track of all the athletes, what they're doing, and actually help them in improving them, basically. Is it clear?
Yes, I agree. We've written a couple of things here, tracking running speed, learning curve. So if it's a smart device, we wouldn't want admin to do it because it's the device that we want the sports people to wear. I think that is something we have defined here. When we were defining boundaries, we said we don't want an attachment, an app, or anything of that sort to the shoe. We want the shoe to be smart.
Workload management, yeah. I mean, it's the same thing.
There is angle foot pressure that we've mentioned. I think they predict injuries. I think we wrote something like that, injury prediction. Okay, I like one thing that says explore more sports. Yes, we can define life. Life can be better if one person who is good at a sport, particular sport, is exploring other sports. But let's say if I am a gym enthusiast, right? So how will your shoe make my life better? More comfort. As a gym enthusiast, I'm really putting myself out of the comfort zone.
Making the shoe multi-purpose, as in flexible, so that he can use it for daily wear and for sports purpose. Is it making his life better?
Isn't the regular shoe like that itself? Why does it have to be smart? The shoe that you wear right now, you can use it for exercising. Like let's say I wear a Nike shoe, 7K Nike shoe. I'm using it for regular purpose and wear it in the gym.
Works, he can run in the night, like works in the night, or
In the cell. I said night. Okay. Life better. I think I will stick to a few things that are given here. Life better would mean he becomes a better sports person. So he becomes better at his sport, right? So whatever he's doing, he becomes better at it. And how does he become better at it? These needs will help us identify it. So think of more needs, keep putting them in the chat. Integrate with equipment, share insights with legs, activity specifically. Again, is this a need or is this a solution? Improving training levels. Okay. Have we not covered it? Somewhat covered it. Track. Okay, I should just write here. Improve body stats. So I think that covers it. Okay. So again, sort of leaning towards the solution is a vibrating alarm. And the problem that is being solved is that they don't reach on time. So I think that's the next step for one of the problems that's mentioned here. Okay, any more ideas? Able to use any time of the day, night, mention that. What is the sport that they are solving? Okay, they are playing. The sport is, let's say, you tell me what all sports you can think of. I have an answer in mind, but I don't want to direct you to it. I want you to think of the sport that they're playing. I think that's a good question. Good to clarify. Maybe I'm thinking of swimming and I don't really need shoes for it, but I'm just saying, Football is a sport, yes. Okay, I'll simplify. Live better at the sport is just let's say they are a sprinter. Okay, so they sprint. What kind of sports is a very good question, because I could have been thinking of badminton. I could have been thinking of a chess player, imagine, and you'd be like, how to make it smart. Uh, really different answers. On top of the news, I could be thinking of a javelin thrower. Lots of answers I can think of. I think one thing we've missed here as well is the level of expertise that a sports person could be going through. That is, whether they're novice, they are mid-level, or are they expert? What kind of a sports this person is, right? And then in terms of if I'm designing a smart shoe, you might have questioned me on the budget as well as to what the income level of the sports person is. Are they just looking for very basic needs to make it smart? Are they looking for a really high-end product? So I think those could have been good clarifying questions. Right. So in my measurements, I would like to also say that I want the sprinters' stamina to increase. Right. I love the running time improvement, running speed, right? So in terms of improvement, because he has to be better at his sport, so running time improves. Right. And health tracking, prevention, all of that is great.
Does it also count like it should tell the when's a good time condition of the shoe? Like sometimes user doesn't know their shoe is at what situation we keep wearing it, and it could be dangerous. So
Yeah, definitely. And that I would have said is maybe going down a straight off. So when I'm building a shoe, I'm not saying that's the right answer to it, but when I was thinking of the solution, like I told you, I have walked through this problem. I had thought of it as a trade-off that, my shoe will not just last it. It's a high-end product. Users are paying so much so, but it's going to probably only last them a year because it's going to wear out. So predicting when it's going to wear out, how is it really improving? Yeah, it might. Maybe to the extent that they know right before the big final match that the shoes are going to give up on them. But me as a company who's building the shoe, I don't know if it's the best idea that I want to give to people buying my shoe.
okay.
And remember, I'm a shoe company.
Yeah.
Okay. It will tell me it's time to buy a shoe and the condition level. Okay. I think coming to this, that I have now narrowed it down to that I am building a shoe that uses technology to make life better of a sprinter by him being better at his sport, which is running. And what it really does is build stamina, as in the stamina to increase, and build stamina and then increases running time and improves. I forgot what I was writing here. Just from one of your answers is only. Oh, I think it's, oh, sorry. I think it's this only, that stamina increase and then running time improves. These were the two things. Right. I hope you're getting a flavor of how it's going to be like in a product interview itself, because how I'm reacting to your answers is exactly how interviewers also react, that they will not give you answers. Or, right now, it's more of a freestyle way of asking questions and getting them answered. But there it is more of you directing it, right? So I told you drive it.
Good question again, Phil.
Yes.
Like, how does a smart shoe is telling stamina to increase? Like, is it a normal shoe can also, if we can make it better in terms of comfort, will allow you to run faster and stamina can increase? I mean, is it something, the app or the shoe smartness, which telling you to track and giving you data? That's where you are coming up with this idea of stamina to increase, because it's not clear, like what stamina to increase? Does it give you data to the athlete?
So it measures it more accurately, and it wants the runner to improve their running ability, that is speed and stamina. So of course it is measuring something where it's going to warn the user or some sort of signals. Again, we've just come to that step of reporting customer needs. We are not at a solution. So now we'll probably be listing solutions, right, before we come to the next step. Oh, first we'll be prioritizing. Sorry. First we'll be prioritizing out of this. I think I've done that prioritization bit. But again, in an interview, what I generally like to do is, let's say, state a few things here. Maybe measurability, right? So I have a few ideas. Maybe health tracking is one of them, right? And in this very quick method, I will be like, okay, health tracking requires maybe a lot of medium to high effort. Oops. Let's just put it here. Medium to high effort. And then the benefit that I'm getting out of it is high. So similarly, when I'm going to be writing it for others, I will have probably 1 or 2 answers which are clearly out there for me, right? So this is something that I generally do, and getting this, whether it's of high importance, high benefit, or how much effort it's going to take for me to build it in, that sort of, I kind of derive it from the interviewer, right? Okay. I hope these steps are clear. Any questions, since we're working through it rather fast as we would have done in a product? Yes.
Hi. Just a small question. Like you mentioned that, let's say we are trying to target a user profile, let's say amateurs, professionals, or high performing athletes, right? So when we are trying to cater to their needs, I think the problems we are trying to trying to segment, or we are trying to solution for certain kinds of ideas will vary to a lot of degree, right? Because we know for amateurs we don't really need a very high tech and solution, but for high
Right.
performing athletes, let's say you're trying to design a shoe for Messi,
Right.
that's a different case altogether. So where do we actually draw a line while we're trying to answer these questions and try to understand how the interviewer is trying to think before even asking the question?
Right. So I think here what the problem is, I'll tell you what is happening in this current situation is that it's not one person who's answering, right? So the line of thought does not remain constant. I faced this before, wherein different people have different ideas. So we are not able to draw a single line of thought here. But once you are thinking of a problem, you'll only be thinking of one particular thing that you want to go forward with. So covering all of these is good, but most likely there will be major use cases that you would have thought of and you'd want to be sticking to them. Once you are convinced of your product instincts and your spidey sense, right? And how you'll be portraying it to the interviewer based on some justification that you're coming up, right? So let's say for me, when I'm solving this, I'm like, a sports person is a good problem to solve for, because as a sports person, I want to really improve my speed and I want to really improve at what I'm doing. Corner cases could be, yes, I want to monitor my calories, also maintain my weight, maintain my body stats, and also prevention injury. All of these are good cases to have. Now, once you're done with all of these, again, that is when you answer your ask your interviewer. You have to understand that he or she is, or they are, a really huge participant in this entire process. You're not just solving it; they are also there. So then you ask them that out of these, I think that for a sportsman, this is a problem worth solving for, because in the current situation, I feel a sportsman would want to improve their these cases that I've listed. And I feel that these are, let's say, being punctual is rather a secondary case. So kind of gauge from them what they are thinking. Again, you can't say that if I were a sportsman, then I would have run like, don't be very careful with the choice of words. You don't have the customer, so you can't really be asking them. So thoughts that will be coming will be yours. Be careful of the words. Now they will be telling you that I think this is a good problem worth solving for, given that the objective was to make life better, and I think this is making the life better. Now, getting back to the objective, if you can get them to clarify. Here, I think somewhat if I were the interviewer, I was rather trying to make it tough for you, but if I was the interviewer and I had to give you an objective, it could have been to improve the running ability. So if I give you that objective, then it's easier for you to go to the next step of cutting through prioritization.
Yeah,
I
that
hope
makes
that
sense.
answers.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a lot of it is situational based. People can make it tougher for you, people can make it easier for you. I'll just give a quick example. I think we're running short of time. I'll say that example for tomorrow. But how a product interviewer kept on changing the question depending on how I was able to answer it or not answer it. So that was a situation. We can discuss that tomorrow. Okay, let's go to next steps. I'll just try to go through them. Listing solutions. You will write on the solutions that you've thought of in terms of this evaluation that you've done, that this is exactly what you're doing. In this process, you must have seen we started with a lot of use cases. Now you narrowed them down to a fewer. And here, maybe with this help, maybe I haven't written many, but let's say if I'd written 3 and I'd probably think, okay, this is something that I benefit and effort is also sort of medium, then I might just go for it. If it's effort is least and then benefit is the highest, then that is something that you might just quickly go for without even further analysis. Right. That's when you list your solutions that we've just been talking about, we're going to improve it, but how will we improve it, right? So one of you had suggested that we were solving for any posture correction. So I think that use case didn't come up. Posture correction for, let's say, gym enthusiasts, if that was the problem we were solving for, then you'd probably want to put in some sensors or gadgets that vibrate when you are in the gym. So it tells you that, okay, your posture was incorrect. Even for athletes running faster, maybe the angle of the foot was incorrect. If you've done it like that, it buzzes. So this is just a device within your shoe and you're not even using an app or anything. It's just the shoe vibrating. Let's say if you run a certain way and your speed, you surpassed the speed that you were doing earlier, or you reached the worst possible speed that you've ever done in your career. In that case, you can have a solution wherein you have LED lights. Green means that you really surpassed it. Red means that this is the most pathetic performance ever. So a few gadgets that you can probably put in there, right? Then coming to okay, now I think you've gotten behavior correction, yes. So you want to write how you're going to correct that behavior in this. Probably thinking of some technology you're putting in, probably thinking of other product ideas, that how will you really build onto the things that you said you will do. This is the solution bit, right? Moving on from the solution, you come to trade-offs. Now, in my evaluation of this, let me see if I can share that one with you because I've already solved this problem. Let me try to. Are you able to, is it the same thing you're seeing or is it something different you're seeing?
Right now, we're not able to see anything.
Your screen has not been shared yet.
Okay.
Now
I was resharing. So I'd written a few things and I think I also stuck with fitness freak and I wrote a few whether it's going to be gym goers, etc. Right? I wrote all of that, fitness freak. Then I said, okay, there could be new gym goers, there could be mid-level expert. What are the needs for these two? So mid-level, I said, okay, I'll not ignore, but these I'll try to write down as to what they are. Moving to prioritization. So for runners, it was adjusting to terrain, maintaining the schedule, performance measurement, very similar to what you all had mentioned in the chart itself, right? But I tried to just bucketize them in terms of effort and benefits. Listing solutions, and this I'm doing it just because we are running out of time. I'm just doing it because I've already done it. I'll show you what I've done. So I thought of self-charging shoes which have replaceable batteries because in this case, it might just go, shoes might stop working. Other sorts of ideas as well. But me as the interviewer said, okay, this is what I'm going to do for lightning mechanism or buzzer, right, which I mentioned. So in this case, I'd like to say that the trade-offs would be that buzzers might distract other athletes who are practicing. Athletic appeal could be lesser. If you're a gym enthusiast, you're seeing in the mirror, the light, how else will you see the light, right? That if you're a sprinter, you're running through, and then suddenly after running is when you are able to see the lights. You can't really see them during running. And buzzers can be uncomfortable and can create confusion of sorts, right? If you don't remember what color was for what. And something that goes is also their sensors that we put in the shoe might not be, don't have longevity and they're not waterproof or washable. Shoes might become heavy, cost the batteries of the shoes could be greater. These are the trade-offs that I'm trying to list, showing that I'm just not absolutely convinced with my solution as the best, but I also have some sort of learners and growth mindset while I'm thinking of the solution. right? So ultimately, the thing that I was telling you right in the beginning, that sentence I could not complete when we were talking of before prioritization. So this is how I'd written it then, that what we're trying to do is create a sensor-based posture, which is correcting shoes. This is the smart shoe that we are building, and it helps professional gym goers, and it corrects their forms and improves their performance. So this is the sentence that I had told you that I will be building further once we have more context. So I hope this helps.
Yes, will definitely help, Fiza. So the Figma template that you built, right? Is it something which you've built on your own, or is it a good practice to follow such kind of template?
This is not really a temp. So this template I have built as in using just FigJam. It's nothing, it's just boxes in which I've written the circus method. Nothing that is a template you can use from. Just put those boxes on FigJam. It was as simple as that. Nothing too extraordinary, just too fancier. And I like to brainstorm on FigJam. So even when I'm using the customer journey, sort of helps me visualize things better. That's what I like to do. Microsoft Whiteboard is there, but I think it can be better in terms of technology. And if you're doing it with friends, there's Miro board. Miro board is something I like using as well. But ultimately, all in all, I really like using FigJam. So that's what I've done there.
Understood.
Let me just bring out that slide I was talking about. Without context, it sounds right. So it was this one, right? When I was saying that this is the role, the goal, and the benefit that I'll be getting from it. Right. So I think with this, we'll probably just come to the end of this.
Fiza?
I'll just, yes.
Yeah. So the last use case that you mentioned, I think you'll be coming across with 4 or 5 use cases, right? The same way how you written. The job should be done.
Ultimately, you should not come with more than 1 or 2 answers. So after cutting through prioritization, listing your solutions, evaluating trade-offs is when it's sort of a similar process like prioritizing. So you're evaluating, you're just prioritizing a product based on your elimination, a solution based on elimination process.
Okay. And the interviewer will take a part in that, right?
Yeah, you have to get them involved. But like you saw a few questions that were put in the chat, I was trying to dodge them because I don't want to build the solution. I want you to build it. So ask your questions in a way in which the interviewer would rather participate in answering. Don't be like, are we building it for this? Are we building it for that? No, try to say that we can do this or we could have done this based on some objective.
Yeah,
so if
the
I
cans
as
and the
an
codes,
right, if I as an interviewer is not defining life better for you, you define it. Give me ideas, right? So I'll be like, okay, life better. Yes, if it improves their running speed, life is better for them. So
yeah, makes sense.
All right, I'll just wrap it up quickly now. To solve a product problem in an interview question, A, clarifying questions, 2, pausing, right? Very important. But after that comes defining and validating the solution, leaving your own biases, which means that you will not be the user. Second, you bring the customer along and try to visualize their user journey, which I told you that we can do through just following through apps as well, right? So download an app, draw that journey, see what it goes from, let's say, Flipkart, logging in till the end purchase. So visualize that narrative entirely. Even in a product interview process, do that if you can, if time permits you. Here we didn't do it as much because for me it was more of a juggling role between participating and interviewing, and it was sort of that telling you what is the corrective behavior as well. So correct answer to things, no, correct way of answering. There's no correct answer. But yeah, in an actual interview, you can do this. That as a, let's say, if I'm building a clock for a blind person, then I'll be like, okay, when they wake up, when they set up the clock, when they are trying to, how will they hear? I mean, they can hear it. Sorry, how will they see the clock while setting the time? Will it disturb the other family members? So walk through their life journey. How would they feel like they feel while using a product? Here it was athletes, so I was sort of imagining the angle of the foot while they were running. I was imagining how the shoes would blink. Or the entire process, just go through that with the user. Now coming to the solution, once you have a solution, we didn't really we weren't able to get to the end of it, and we couldn't have because there are so many varied views here, and all of them are correct answers. But once only you are there with the interviewer, even during mocks, make it a practice to have one final solution saying that this is the most viable product. MVP here is the most viable product, and this is what I want to build. Out of all the features I said, this is something that directly ties to the role, makes sense, right? And lastly, we measuring success. Measuring success is something I didn't cover. This usually happens when you're rather in a process of actual PMing. But even in an interview process, it's good to mention the success of a feature. How will you say that it is successful? Success would mean more number of purchases. It could mean more users using a product. It could mean a lot of things. More the customer satisfaction has improved from one metric to another. So business metric, functional metric. So business would be the success of the business. Functional metric is the success of the product. So mentioning them is great. And then improvement. So how will you improve the product that you have suggested of building, right? So I'm open to any questions in the chat. Let me know. I'm here for another 10-15 minutes. So please shoot. And I hope this was helpful. Trying to do somewhat similar in terms of product design. So that will be more focused on designing a product, not just in terms of prototyping or wireframing, but more like product design problems particularly. So, all right, let me know if you have any questions and here to help.
Hi, Fiza.
Yes.
I have a question, but thank you. It was wonderful session today. We really liked it. The more we were able to actually interact, it's okay. We were not able to do in more details, but it's better we more interact. My question is like being a software engineer, how would you answer your tell me about yourself? Because I sometimes struggle because I myself was a software engineer and I moved to product. It's when I have to transition or tell me about yourself. I know the answer you may probably like because you were why and all. I mean, what is your take on it? How you answer that basically?
All right, tell me about yourself is a question that is a behavioral question. And usually what interviewers are trying to know is about a little about your journey in just career journey. So how I like to go about it is go backwards. So stating as to where I am today to going backwards to, there are two ways to do it, right? I do both, unintentionally I do both. Like today I went from my software journey to my product journey. Because I felt that was relevant. Sometimes I do it the other way around, that I am a product management product manager here, product management intern when I was, and then going back to my history. In that, I also want to appear to the interviewer that outside of work, I'm an interesting person, so I have some hobbies. So after defining your career in, let's say, 3 or 4 major milestones, so don't go into depths and depths of things you might have a huge career journey. Go into major key milestones, something that is crisp and your interviewer is interested in listening to. So even if it's a product, even if let's say I'm a consultant, so I'll mention that I was a consultant. What did I exactly do that if you think it is really relevant to the product role, mention it in a line, but not more than that. So keep it crisp, mention 4 or 5 highlights of your life. And at the end of it, I definitely tell them that outside of work, this is what I do, this is what I'm a person. If you want to ask more about, let's say, poker, come to me, right? I'm that person who would want to talk about it. What people are generally looking for when they are hiring outside of your product acumen, what they want to know is that are you an interesting person to work with? So I think that they really have to work with you after they hire you. So that's really on top of mind. I hope that answers. That is the process generally I take.
Okay. Do you, I mean, when I do tell me about yourself, I was thinking of making it more interesting. I started doing Fig Jam. So somebody asked me like, hey, tell me about yourself. Can I only tell them, can I share my screen and show you some my journey? And then I do a Fig Jam session where I put it all my milestone and everything in a block and that's where they are actually following me over the journey. Or do you say like, just tell them on the voice, no need to do a Fig Jam like this, and I just try to make it interesting. Is that a right take to do it, or is it too much?
If I were the interviewer, I'd be happy to hear your journey via visualization. Nothing great like it, but it depends on the person you're speaking with. It could be that person has interviewed 10 other candidates, so they're not really interested in any of these, tactics, or they just want to know in a crisp couple of sentences, what do you do really, right? It depends on the interviewer. So the best thing to do there, I mean, what I would have done is to ask them, so would you be comfortable if I walk you through? They say, no, I think you can just tell me in a couple of words. Then that's what you do. You just try to summarize it in 50 words and then fill it out to them. Few things again, just be very confident of whichever method you use. If you start fumbling over FigJam and it's not a skill that is great, I wouldn't suggest it. If you think you don't have great communication skills and that is why you're choosing FigJam, go ahead and do it. But ask. So that's my take on it.
Okay, thank you.
Right. I'm sharing a feedback form. What am I saying? I'm sharing a feedback form here on the chat. Please do share it, fill it up and share it with the people who attended this. It'll be very helpful if you fill it, and if you really like the session, do fill it so that I hear from you and I know what I can improve on. Yes.
Like it might be completely irrelevant, but generally for anyone who are 2 years into product management and kind of a medium skill based doesn't have a complete understanding as to how it goes. Generally, what is the number of PM cases you would fail before you get succeeded into it? Just a very practical question wherein I kind of see this rigor that we often fail at some level or the other, maybe not able to understand the feedback or the expectation of an interviewer, or in some cases we don't even know why we fail. So how do you generally assess this problem in a real life scenario?
Okay. So when it's going to happen, you are probably in a seat where you're able to predict that it's going to happen. So anytime you see that your product, what is the worst fear that a product manager can face? Like the biggest downfall in their career is that a product that they build is not being used by the user. These are numbers that are going to be there right there in your face. You will always have time to improve. So either you have to retrieve your strategy, retract, or you have to bring in another strategy, but you have to act on your feet. So
So
yes.
generally, does interviewers really care whether, I really made a product earlier, but I know it's not been used. I mean, it still failed at the design stage itself. It didn't go into the practice. But would they actually consider, okay, fine, you know the design principles, you understand, how to structure your whole problem. But yeah, end of the day, no one cared about your product. So why would your profile anyway make sense to, when compared with others? In general, I mean, this is a very practical question just to understand my own psyche.
No, I think the learnings that you take from them, if you're asking in terms of a product interview, right? The learnings that you take from them and how you project them, that you will not be repeating those mistakes, right? And how? If you have that answer ready with you, I think there is no reason for you to be rejected from at least a product interview. I think one of the principles that I am taught as I am, still in my early to mid level of product management, what I'm told is learn to fail fast. So if you know you failed fast, that's a success. If you know when to quit, that's a success. You really haven't failed. And these are not just things that are said, that sound really dreamy, but they are practical. There have been cases in my I can tell you my 2-month journey where I could predict, okay, this product is really it's not really a product, it's part of the product that you'll be working on if you're working in a big firm. You can predict that, okay, the ownership that I've gotten for this bit might not be impactful. So what do? You communicate to other folks. You think of measures of how you can cut your losses, right? Cutting your losses then and there. And eventually you'll move into something else. It's not that big of a deal. At least in mid-level management, you're not really at leadership level where you really destroyed a product. So I think there is always a way to it, and also learnings from it that you take from it. So don't repeat. There are 3 kinds of people that I've learned in my journey. One sort of person is who learns from their mistakes. One sort of person who learns from other people's mistakes. But there's always a third who doesn't learn at all. So don't be that person. At least be the person who learns from their mistakes, if not from others.
That makes a lot of sense. And the last question, you're trying to tell about the keywords, right, which actually qualifies the resume. Is there any tool? I even came across one of Google APM trying to tell me that okay, your CV and resume has everything, but you still need to have a quality keywords that the tool would actually try to make sense. Is there a way we can optimize our resume to make sure that the AI tool will, I mean, the ATS tracking tool will pick up our resumes? Is there any way which you might have already figured it out? Sorry to ask if that's a wrong question.
No, it's not a wrong question to ask. I'm just trying to see the best way to answer it so that I'm not divulging any information that's not to be out there. I do have a list of points that I have there, but I'm not sure if I can share it. Other than that, let's forget that. Other than that, there is one way to do it, right? So any role that you're applying for, they have a product description, right? Job description, right? In that job description, you will know what are the key attributes that they are looking for. Don't exactly pick them up. I don't suggest that, okay, to just pick them up because most people might do it. Don't just lift them and put them in your CV. Think of ways in which you can incorporate at least that activity. So if it is wireframing, so if it's something related to, let's say you created a proof of concept, so mention that in your CV because you know that they're looking for maybe a prototype or a wireframe, right? So I hope you understand what I'm telling you to extract from there, not word lifting, but rather context lifting.
Yeah, as I said, proof of concept and a
Right.
design problem, maybe. Yeah, that makes
Right.
sense. Yeah. Thanks for the answer.
Okay, folks, I had a lovely time today. Thank you so much for being so patient and you really asked me great questions. And I hope I have been helpful. Please don't forget to fill out the session feedback form. That will really help me in understanding if I can help you better in the future session. There is a session tomorrow, so we'll be connecting tomorrow. I hope to see you guys again. Have a great night and keep your questions for tomorrow. I'll be answering more of them.
Thanks, Fiza.
All right, good night.
Good night. Take care.
Bye.